I know I've been making a lot of opinionated videos lately, but this will be the last one for a while. If you are easily triggered by discussions of religion, mental health, emotions, or for some reason music, I recommend you click off the video now. With that said, let's get started. I had honestly contemplated on whether or not this video was going to be worth making. That was until I got this comment on one of my posts about a concert I went to recently. Once I saw it, I knew I had to. If you guys aren't familiar with me or this channel, you'll know that I'm a huge metal fan. I have long hair, I own a lot of metal CDs, I have a collection of band tees, I go to various metal concerts, I have a decked out battle vest, you get the point. I've been into this genre for a long time now, and I've had my fair share of interactions with boomers when it comes to metal, along with many other metalheads or anyone who is under the alt umbrella. I've gone back and looked at old footage of boomers talking about metal back in the early days, and it's astonishing to me how not much has really changed over the years. So today I wanted to do a Ween-esque type of analysis video on boomers versus metal. Keep in mind that what I'm going to say is 100% my opinion. I understand this subject matter is subjective and not everyone will agree with me. I don't plan on changing your opinions on the music. I understand some people get enjoyment out of it, like myself, but not everyone does. My goal with this video is to hopefully educate some of you who may hold the same beliefs as these boomers. I am also not attacking anyone's religious beliefs. I may interject with my opinion here or there, but I am not going to diss anyone for believing in something. I also believe that these boomers and anyone who thinks like them are people who are simply passing on what they were raised to believe, like a lot of parents do. This also isn't going to be a no you argument. I will present my argument and why I think it is right or wrong and look at how or why they could think this way and whether or not it makes sense. So let's start with this. Metal isn't dangerous. The first argument you may hear from boomers and why they made a Christians Against group on Facebook is because metal encourages Satanism. As I'm sure you've already figured out, a lot of these boomers share the same religious beliefs, that being of the Christian faith. A lot of these people believe that Satanists are these devil-worshipping maniacs who sacrifice livestock in the woods and do blood rituals in an abandoned basement of an old building. Now, while that can happen, it's not as often as you would think, nor is it remotely connected to metal at all. Most Satanists today, and even as far back as 1966, were and still are atheistic. Anton LaVey founded the Church of Satan in 1966 and established the 11 Satanic Rules, which their entire belief system revolves around. The reason he chose to call this faith Satanism is because he wanted to piss off Christians. For many years, this has worked in his favor. Then again, in 2012, Lucian Greaves and Malcolm Jari founded the Satanic Temple, keeping the same atheistic beliefs as the church, but establishing 7 tenets of its own. I will put the 11 rules and the 7 tenets up on the screen so you can read them for yourself and come to your own conclusion. I know people will try to twist this as if I'm defending something evil or I'm defending an anti-Semitic person because Lucian made some past remarks. However, that's the exact opposite of what I'm doing. My personal feelings on this do not matter. What I'm doing is making an attempt to educate you on this subject matter. I'm not encouraging financial support towards these people, nor am I really encouraging you to support these people at all. I'm leaving it open for interpretation. I know most of you know that, I just had to make that clear for the people who are so vehemently against this. As I've already stated, most Satanists today are atheistic, meaning they do not believe in God or multiple gods or even the devil. They believe in free and critical thinking and use that to rebel against traditional organized religion. It is my belief that the people you hear about on paranormal shows or in the news who commit these kinds of acts are mentally ill. I do not believe they actually believe that Satan exists or that they are doing this because they believe they will get into hell that way, and if they do, it must be a small percentage of them. I believe that these people are young, mentally unwell, and or have some past religious trauma that they haven't dealt with in a healthy manner. I also believe heavily that these acts are not influenced by metal. If you remember the satanic panic of the 80s and 90s, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. There were many cases coming up accusing abuse acts to be satanic in some way, which sent a lot of people into mass hysteria. Many preachers took to metal being the cause of these gruesome acts or influencing it in some way, and even attempted to put a ban on it if my memory serves me correctly. If I'm wrong, feel free to correct me in the comments. People would and still do make the claims that the lyrics and overall content are satanic, and some people even played tracks in reverse to find some kind of hidden message in the songs they claimed were satanic. While satanic imagery and themes have become more prevalent over the years, it certainly hasn't helped the stigma against Satanism and metal. I'm not saying it should be censored or removed entirely. I'm saying that the older generation and people who were conditioned to think this way should open up their minds more instead of taking things at face value and inviting alt people to church so they can, quote, be saved. Some of these bands with this type of imagery also do charitable work, Behemoth being a great example of this. They opened up a merch shop and started selling vintage band merch to raise money for the people of Ukraine. I believe that these bands aren't encouraging murder or committing dangerous acts. They're encouraging you to be nice to one another and respect everyone, no matter who they are, but only if they really deserve it. However, if you try to prove to them that metal isn't satanic, they might follow up with something like, if it's about killing people, then you approve of murder. I do not believe the lyrical content in this music is encouraging people to do anything. Most people know you wouldn't get the same feeling if you killed someone in real life as you do in a video game, for example. Hearing someone talk about killing in a song in an incoherent way over some sick riffs just scratches the brain in the right way for some people. You can look at the lyrics and be like, damn, that's fucked up, which is an appropriate response, but the content isn't encouraging or appropriating murder or anything. I actually just found out something about one of my favorite bands, Vitriol. Apparently, they used audio of a 12-year-old girl endgaming herself for an intro to one of their videos of a playthrough for one of their songs on YouTube. Is that fucked up? Absolutely. Does that mean they're glorifying endgaming yourself? I would argue no. I'd also argue they showed remorse for this by cutting that audio entirely from that video. They also supposedly made a donation to Valley Memorial Hospital or a charity of that sort, but there is no definitive proof regarding if they did or didn't, so I can't say for 100% certainty if they did or didn't. I also looked into the lyrics of the song, and the general gist I got from it was that endgaming yourself is still very serious and that it's how someone generally would feel about that. I'll leave the lyrics up on the screen and you can come to your own conclusion. I believe that this isn't a 13 Reasons Why situation. I believe that these guys tried to convey a message in a really fucked up way that they later fixed. Keep in mind, this was almost 4 years ago when their album first came out, so this is dead drama at this point. At the end of the day, this music is extreme and touches on extreme things and conveys messages through very extreme ways. If a band is going to go to those lengths, they will do it, and that includes using questionable clips. I won't lie, I've heard audio in this music that has made me uncomfortable before. But does that mean it's justifying horrendous actions? I believe it's the intention behind the art. The intention isn't to tell people to go out and commit heinous acts, or in Vitriol's case, to endgame yourself. It's to convey a message. Just like the video games argument, there is no link between metal and murder. The next thing they might try to argue is that metal makes you angry because it's an aggressive style of music and it can lead to delinquency. On paper, this might be their best argument until you look into the psychology of it. Metal doesn't directly make people aggressive. If someone listens to metal while they're angry, the metal is not necessarily the cause. They made the conscious decision to play it while they were feeling angry. Just like the video games argument I mentioned earlier, there's no direct link between people feeling angry and committing violent acts and metal. If people listened to metal before doing a violent act, they may just be mentally troubled and need anger management classes or therapy or something like that to help them. This is also why mosh pits exist. People who have pent-up aggression can still shove other people around and run in a circle while looking out for their fellow concert goers. There are also a few, amongst many other things, that people don't take into account when talking about aggression and metal. They often never bring up relationship issues, whether that be with a family or a romantic partner, troubled home life, their work environment, drug abuse, and the sense of alienation, just to name a few. I also believe that these people are oftentimes hypocritical when making this argument. They may have a child or multiple children who play violent video games and are okay with it, or if they're young and don't have kids and they themselves play violent video games and are okay with it, but believe in this stigma against this music genre, it goes against what they are actively preaching. There may also be a case where a parent is against their kid wearing a shirt that has content they consider to be evil, so they don't want their kids to be any any different from them. I believe that these people believe that because they are a parent, they have full control over what their kid consumes, what they wear, and how they live their life. I fully agree that parents should monitor their kids and what they are consuming. However, when they reach teenhood, they will start learning about more adult things and consuming more mature media. There are many reasons as to why someone who listens to metal could be angry, but metal is not the cause. Delinquency and metal also have no link together. People who are young will be stupid. That's just natural. These people who make these claims were young ones too. However, I will not say they did something or multiple stupid things as kids because I do not know them. I believe when everyone is or was young, they will do or say stupid things. If they go out and commit violent acts, they could have had a rough upbringing, they could not be monitored by their parents, or no one really cares about what they do. They might not have family or friends to rely on, so they might resort to these kinds of acts because they might be troubled. All of this is not linked to metal in any way. The bands are also not encouraging this kind of behavior. I believe that metal doesn't cause a kid to go out and commit vandalism or crash their mom's car or anything like that. I believe that these people do these sorts of things because no one is monitoring them and telling them otherwise, or if it's violent, getting them the help they need. Another thing they might argue is that it's just noise and it doesn't sound coherent enough to be considered music. This is the more subjective argument they make, but I still wanted to include it. There is a whole musical genre out there called noise, which is just that, noise. Whether that be experimental hip-hop beats or someone doing random things on a guitar and maxing out the gain on it, metal does not fall under this genre. I'm sure most of you already know this, but metal has melodies of all sorts. It can be slow and atmospheric, e.g. doom metal. It can be paced rather fast with some little lulls here and there, e.g. thrash metal or standard heavy metal, or it can be fast enough to where the snare drum sounds like an AR-15, e.g. death metal, black metal, deathcore, and many, many others. I specifically want to point out the fastest stuff. The reason it doesn't fall under this umbrella is because it still has melody. That melody has just been upped tenfold, so it may sound too fast for some people to follow. Some people would argue this kind of music doesn't have melody or they simply don't hear it. I believe that if you just pay attention to the snare or the cymbals and the drummer is keeping a consistent tempo and the guitars can coexist, it is enough to be considered melodic. There are, of course, exceptions to this, since genres like grindcore exist. However, not every song of that genre is going to be some dudes wailing away on their instruments for 30 seconds. Most of them, sure, but not all. The best way I could describe it is if a death metal band was challenged to write a song in a minute or less. That's basically what grindcore is. Bands like Full of Hell and Nails have put their own spin on this genre and arguably made it more rhythmic. I think that this is just a quick dismissal because I also believe the people that make this argument are closed-minded. They know what they like and don't want to look into why they might be wrong, or they might have a fear of being proven wrong. As I stated at the beginning of this video, my goal isn't to change anyone's mind. It's to hopefully educate those who think this way and maybe help them open their mind a little more to discussion. People will also vouch for the positive influence metal has had on someone they know or even themselves. People will say it has helped them when they were mentally struggling, and this music, but also the community, is their way of affirming that they are not alone when dealing with something. This is yet another thing that people with this boomer ideology like to ignore. Based on my personal experience, the metal community is full of some of the nicest people I've ever met. They will look out for you in a heartbeat to make sure that you are okay. The music connects people together in a way that I have never seen before. It's what binds these people together. That's not to say all of them are this way though, it has its fair share of brainlets, much like every community ever. But the vast majority of metalheads are upstanding, nice people. Yet these boomers and people who think like them want to paint them as these vile groups of people, all because of the music they consume. This is why, in my opinion, it's time for a change. I think it's time we stop forcing religion on people, and we stop forcing our ideals on people and the way we think on people, but instead present the idea to them and let them come to their own conclusion. This doesn't apply to everything, obviously, but just to anything that is subjective. You don't have to agree. I don't expect you to. The bottom line is to let people have their opinions, and if it doesn't affect you, leave them alone. It is that simple. With all of that being said, I hope this enlightens some of you and that you are willing to hear some people out now and are open to a discussion instead of instantly putting them down. At the very least, I hope you see things from a new perspective. Regardless, thank you for watching. If you agreed with anything I had to say, hit the like button. If you're a boomer, hit the dislike button. If you want more metal content, subscribe to the channel. Once again, thank you, much love, and I will see you in the next video.